name is Jacob and I'm a professional artist, and today I'm going to teach you how to draw and shade clothes. So what you should be able to gain from this lesson is the ability to draw different types of clothes on both males and females and different material clothes, invent folds and wrinkles, and be able to shade them accurately. So a few things that you're gonna need to know how to do is, number one, you'll need to understand light, you'll need to understand form, and you'll need to understand anatomy. However, before you try and run away, you can still watch and learn how to create clothes without the knowledge of this. It will just be much easier and way more beneficial for you to understand those things, because they'll help you in the long run anyway. So you can start this lesson without those things, but it would be very helpful if you understood those things. All right, so step number one. All right, so step number one, you need to understand the form underneath whatever you're drawing. So right here, I have this illustration of somebody sticking their arm out. All right, so I'll just make it a little bit darker so you can see it better. So here, in essence, what we have here is like a cylinder, okay? So it would be a cylinder kind of shape. So with clothing wraps around people. It's always on something. So for example, here we have a ball. You see how things fall from this ball. For a cylinder, clothing usually is going to wrap around inside such a sense. This is what is usually going on. You see how just like that, it kind of feels like we have some kind of clothing there. So it's the wrap that's going on. That's the first step. You have to understand what is underneath the clothes, because the clothing will take shape of whatever is underneath the clothes. The next step in drawing clothes is use a reference, get a reference, okay? So we do this for multiple reasons. If we come to this illustration that I did over here, you can tell that this is a thicker material than the pants. If you don't have a reference, and this can be a reference for the pose that you're doing in the clothes, that can help you so that you don't have to completely use your mind to start inventing folds. You can use a picture that's similar to the pose that you use with similar materials or different material, and you can use that to kind of model the clothing folds and wrinkles off of. The other thing that you can use is a material model, okay? So let's just say you wanted somebody to wear a thick hoodie like what we have here. Something thick is going to fold different from something thin. So for example, what we have here is a thin fabric with a ball underneath it. So you see how it just folds so fluidly, whereas something slightly thicker won't have very thick folds inside it. It won't have as many bends because of how thick it is. It just doesn't turn on a dime. So different materials will have different ways of folding. So even here, what we have is a material wrapped around a ball, and you can see how many folds there are. But the same ball with a different material has very thick kind of folds as the material wraps around. There's a thickness to it. So that's another thing that has to be considered when you are inventing clothing. You're trying to clothe any of your artworks. You have to think about, okay, what kind of material is it? And I suggest looking at different references and seeing how this material creates folds. This is a beginner's guide, but I could create an advanced guide to help you understand different materials. But for now, it's a beginner's guide. So coming back here, this is a thinner material, and you can see we have way thinner wrinkles going out through the material. The second thing is the reference helps with is we have stitching here, and you can see wrinkles come from the stitching, and that it adds realism. The more tiny details that you understand about clothing, the more realism that you're going to gain. So here, this thicker material, we have a seam, I believe it's called. We have a seam here, and sometimes this is going to be a reason why clothing will start to wrinkle. And here we also have I actually don't know what this part is called, but the little armband part of hoodies. It will be another place where wrinkles will start to form. So as you start studying different clothes, you'll start to see places where wrinkles will originate from, things like that. There's patterns that go around. So step 1 is know the form underneath, and step 2 is get a reference for your pose. So get a clothing reference for the pose to see how in real life those folds are made, and then get a reference also for how the material that you're trying to put someone in folds, because cotton isn't going to fold the same way as fur or a thick jacket or denim is going to fold. There's going to be differences, and for you to express those things, you need to study. Another aspect of the form underneath is if the form has bends underneath, it will cause wrinkles. Okay, so step number 3 is establishing the points of tension / contact, and these are going to be the origin points of your fold. So now we can come back to here. If we have a ball here, this is the point where all of the interaction is going on with the material. So right here, you have this point here, and you have the material falling off. So all of the folds, the wrinkles, originate from this area here. So when it comes to knowing the form underneath, right here we have a form. Now I added some anatomy on top. These are arms. I added some anatomy on top because things like biceps and triceps, or even breasts or other kinds of muscles, they'll affect how clothing fits. Okay, so here we have a muscular arm, and there we don't have a muscular arm. So a point of contact, if there's a ball right here, there's going to be a point of contact coming from the shoulder. Then there's also a point of contact here. Anything that sticks out is usually a point of contact. There's going to be a point of contact here. Then if you think about gravity, if the clothing wanted to fall downwards, this area here, this whole ridge here is catching the material. So this area becomes a point of contact. And then as it comes down, this is a point of contact, and then this area by the wrist is going to be a point of contact. So think about how everything is going to fall. What is holding material up? This is going to hold material up, and then if we come this way, this is also going to hold the material up. If I just draw a straight line, okay? If I draw a straight line, material will fall down here, material will fall down here. If I draw a line from here, material will be held up from here. So all of this contact is coming from the arm. These are the points where the cloth is interacting with the body, and this will cause wrinkles because gravity will be pulling the cloth down. Now the second thing is point of tension. So we know that it's not just a long blanket that somebody is wearing. It's smaller than that. Sometimes it's tight. So between here and perhaps this point of the bicep, the material is being stretched. Between here and this point in the tricep, the material might be getting stretched. All right. So these are what we would call points of tension. So we know I'm gonna construct now. I'm gonna start constructing clothing now, so I'm gonna erase some of these lines. I'm so sorry for like any of the shaking that's gonna occur inside this video. My tripod is literally leaning against my table. It's like the worst setup possible, but I promise you guys I'm gonna improve. So now we actually just have an arm here. And if I put this arm in a t-shirt, here we have the hem for the t-shirt. The first thing we're gonna get is we're gonna get some wrinkles coming that wrap around the shoulder muscle. We're gonna wrap around the shoulder muscle, and this area here is gonna provide support. Then we're gonna have tension between this point and this point. The other thing we're also going to have is piling up of material, okay? So the material is gonna be piling up in this little pit of the arm, the opposite of the elbow. Material is gonna pile up in here, but then there's gonna be some tension coming between the tricep that we have here and whatever's going on in this area. So if you think about it, like I said here, material wraps around. Just think about clothing wrapping around. So we have it wrapping around from here to there, and it just continues wrapping around. That's a very easy and basic way to cheat clothing folds. But you also have to think about, oh, where's it gonna pile up? So we have this here. This is really messy. So come in and erase. So we have the material piling up. Now from here, we could have tension potentially from this point to what we'll have as a little armband here for whatever clothing piece this is. So we have gravity bringing the material downwards. And then we also have tension between the material and the natural twisting that clothes has. So gravity is bringing the clothing down. So you have the natural twisting and also gravity. So we'll have this happening here and just some light bunching up over here. So just like that, you can construct believable wrinkles. But if you want to improve your wrinkles, I just want to express the gravity here a little bit more. Just like that. And this point here. We have the shoulder, like I said, being an origin for quite a few of the wrinkles. So here you can create believable clothes, okay? You can create believable folds in clothing, all right? So I'm gonna come here and show you what it looks like if you do not have any anatomy. You just have this straight construction. So you could easily use this trick. Bam, you get the material twisting. This comes twisting under, then this comes twisting on top. So you can simply come in like this, and then consider material twisting above here, and it just comes here, okay? And then you erase your guidelines. You don't want to be drawing guidelines as hard as I am. So, as you can see, you can still create some believable folds by just using the wraparound method. So having clothes just continuously wrap around the form, just twisting and twisting and twisting, it can create some believable folds. And this can be a beginner hack that you can use when you're just starting out. And then as you improve, you can start considering, okay, how can I add different points of tension? How can I add places where clothing bunches up naturally? So, because obviously we have tension coming from this area, tension from this area, and then a little bit of tension from here where we have the tight material. So tension, tension. These points just create folds going towards each other. Okay, so coming back around here, let's study this. We have the shoulders here, and we can see how from each shoulder, the material comes downwards. Now there's a tight waistband here for the hoodie, and it causes the clothing to bunch up. It bunches up here. So that's why we have these bunched up wrinkles and folds. They come from here. Then the material also. Let's look at material. When you want to create something thick, you don't want to ever use very, very close to each other wrinkles. This isn't how thick material starts to wrinkle. Thick material wrinkles thickly. So you have to be considering thickness. So that's going to be shorter lines that don't always make it to the end of the material, and also more space in between each of the wrinkles, because it's more like lumps. Here, if you're thinking about spikes, think about round balls and lumps when you're trying to design thicker material. So that's why we have thickness here, not as many wrinkles. But when we come to the pants, this is where the stitches, the hems, become a point of origin for wrinkles, because what's happening is that your body comes into your pants, and then, for example, stitching right here, let's just say this is a pair of pants. The stitching here is pulling the fabric. When you get into the fabric, you start to stretch the fabric out, and this becomes an area of new material, and this becomes an area of new material. So those are two places where the stitching will cause a lot of tension, and wrinkles will come from there. So as you see here, wrinkles are originating from the stitching, even going towards the next stitching. But at the same time, we're also having that underlying wrap effect. We have wrinkles going this way, coming around, and the material actually gets thinner here. So as you can see, apart from that, on someone's leg, behind their knee, this is a potential area where clothing can bunch up. You see that here, there can be tension, but then also there can be a bunching up of material here. And then the knee is also another area where there's going to be tension. So you get tension from the knee to this center stitching, and then finally down to the bottom of the leg, which would be something like this. And sometimes material, if you're wearing a pair of jeans, it would bunch up there. So that's kind of how the tension would work. But if you keep to that wrapping motion, you can finesse almost anything. You don't really have to understand too much if you do this. But having the references really helps. And you also have to think of it in a three-dimensional way. So for example, here, this wrinkle is actually coming from underneath. It's going around to his butt. So it goes underneath and comes from his butt. That's where this wrinkle is coming from. Because if you turn somebody around and they have like a butt, I think everybody has a butt and legs, right in between here, there's going to be some wrinkles that form because of your butt. Even if I turn somebody sideways, there's going to be wrinkles here, there's going to be wrinkles here. Similar to a knee, we get those exact same wrinkles coming from a butt, and they come underneath and actually join up with these same knee wrinkles. So as that's going around, you have that coming around, so you have a knee, and then it comes down to the feet. So the places that you want to be thinking about when designing wrinkles, you want to be thinking about the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist. The shoulder, gravity brings material down, causing these wrinkles. The elbow, clothing usually bunches up around the elbows. And then by the wrists, sometimes there's a wristband, sometimes the wrist itself causes more bunching up to occur. But there's going to be tension between these 2 points, or there's going to be bunching up, and there's going to be natural bunching up at these locations, and the wrinkles will join. Wrinkles want to connect with each other, and that's something that needs to be understood. So we're going to construct a new drawing together, and I'm going to follow these steps. So step 1, you want to know the form underneath. So I'm going to quickly draw a body. Okay, I'm going to quickly draw a body. I have some references here. I'm going to use a female so that you can understand how female anatomy can affect clothing. So, all right, I have my pose selected. Sadly, because of copyrights, I can't show you this pose. I got it from Pinterest. So you can just type in Pinterest fashion and you can get so many clothes. So I'll quickly just draw my head in. So I'm not thinking about anatomy, I'm not thinking about proportions too much here. I just want the basic forms. So right here I have a rib cage. I have the waist, and I'm gonna have a leg coming out from there, and a leg coming out from here. I'm gonna have a shoulder. I'm gonna have another shoulder somewhere around here. Boom, neck, okay. Leg, knee, leg, knee, leg, ankle, ankle, elbow, wrist. The other arm is hidden behind. Okay, so from here, I roughly have an idea of what's going on with this person's body. Okay, I roughly have an idea of what's going on with this person's body. So step 1 is establishing the form underneath. When you get better, you won't have to draw all of these things. You'll just be able to instinctively know what's underneath, but that takes a lot of practice. A lot of practice. I swear this head is like, okay, there we go, it's okay. So the collarbone can sometimes provide support. So another thing with the breasts is that they'll appear differently if they're in a bra or if they're not in a bra. Okay, so step 1 is understand the forms underneath. Okay, so these are the shapes underneath that we have. We have a rib cage, we have these breasts, we have the shoulders. Step 2 is having a reference for your pose and your material. So I have my pose already referenced out, and my material, it's already selected because she'll be wearing a t-shirt and then some like pants that are made out of some kind of, you know, like what a lot of windbreakers are made out of, I think. That's step 2. So I have that there, I have that reference for me, so everything is great. So establish the points of tension, the contact and origin points. So first of all, the breasts, these two, will cause tension. Okay, so there's tension between these 2 points, and then there's tension from this breast to this arm. Because this arm is higher than this one, there's going to be an interaction where we have wrinkles forming from here all the way to the breast. Then we also have the same thing happening towards this breast, but not as much. And then we have gravity causing, I mean, the breast causes the shirt to kind of lift away from the body. And we just have a little bit of tension here. And this is what I mean about wrapping. We're gonna have some tension coming from around here, and it's a t-shirt, so we're just gonna have a little bit of bunching up in this area, because as we see a pinch, or if there's a pinch, there's also gonna be bunching up. And then from here, we have gravity bringing the t-shirt down. So we have a little bit of gravity causing wrinkles from the breast there. And you're gonna see this shape at the end of clothes, and this is really what a wrinkle is. Anytime that there's a wrinkle, something is pinching and then expanding and being held up, the material at the bottom isn't gonna be straight. So here we have the rest of her body. It joins up her waist. So what we have here is the waistband of the pants. It's tight, no real wrinkles, very stiff, belt loops. Now we have our seam in between. Okay, so points of tension. This point of her waist is going to cause tension. And then we also have the wraparound effect occurring. Point of tension, the knee is always going to be a point of tension, and then also the butt will always be a point of tension. So we have wrinkles coming in from the butt, and also wrinkles joining in from here. And a little bit of wrinkles originating from the seam. So these are a little bit of subtle things that you can only understand when you study from a reference. So we're gonna have, this material is loose, so we can have very long wrinkles going across. If it was like a more stiff material, you'd have very short lines, very short wrinkles. But this material is quite loose, quite thin, so we can have quite a few bigger wrinkles. Then here we have the bunching up. Right here, there's a little bit of a pinch. We can have the bunching up occurring, but then also keeping in mind that wrap. So we can still have material wrapping around, and then we have the ankles here. At the end here, we have a little bit of like an ankle band, so the material is gonna bunch up again. So boom, material comes forward. This is a point of tension. We're gonna have a few wrinkles coming in from around here, and then the material comes and wraps around. So boom, wraps around this way, and then you have some bunching up here once again. And that creates your wrinkles, your wrinkles. So just like that, we constructed some clothing wrinkles. So part 2, forget about that. So now, the shading aspect. because now these folds have been designed. So step one, know the form. We sketched out the form. Step two, get a reference. We had a reference. Step three is establish the points of tension and contact / origin. I'll also add in the areas of pinching. So we established the breasts, the shoulders, the waist, the knees, the butt. Those ones are always going to be there. And step four is design the folds. So this was what we were doing. We were designing the folds. So step five is shading. And this is the most difficult part. So you have to consider the direction of light. So right here, we say our light source is going to be there. What I do is that I shade everything in the dark first, and then I go into the light. So if this is our light source, I'll just basically start shading everything that I know is supposed to be in the dark. A little bit of the under part of the boobs. All of the right side of the shadows will be in the dark. So what's going on is that shadows are forming on the opposite side of the material. So if this is how the material is folding, this side is going to be in shadow because the light can't touch it. There's going to be shadow going on here, shadow going on here. This is what's going on with folds. And then there's going to be cast shadows and other things that are happening. But this is basically what you're thinking about when you're shading the folds. So underneath each fold is also going to be a little bit of shadow, but mostly on the right side. So on the right side of this leg, there's shadow. So you're also considering the fact that you have a tube, right? If I have a tube here, this side is naturally going to be in shadow, but when I add in a wrinkle, if I add in wrinkles, now it's another form that you have here, and now it becomes a little bit more complex to shade. Because now you actually have to start thinking about, oh, is this part in the light? Is this part not in the light? Is there a shadow here? And you always want everything to be getting lighter as you go towards the light side. So I'm considering that. I'm just thinking about, okay, underneath the fold, there's going to be shadow, and to the left side of the fold, there's going to be shadow. So then the next step is going to be creating darker shadows on the inside. So this is like for the very deep folding shadows that you can have here. This becomes really dark because there's absolutely no light. So just get in and darken a few things even more. Like right underneath here, there's no light coming there. Under here, there's absolutely no light coming there. There's no light coming right here. So I can darken that even more. Getting lighter as we go towards the light, obviously. Over here, there's a little bit of a pool that we get here. Comes in like this, so there wouldn't be any light reaching this area. So that's why I shade over here. Underneath the knee. Yeah, and even inside the light side, there can be minimal shadow. Right there. So there you have some basic shading that you can get in. of clothing. Just a basic way to shade and design your shadows. I like to come in with blending. I have a smooth style. That's what I like. And use your eraser as a tool. You can come in and erase to create highlights. It really brings in a lot of interest. It makes your shadows more interesting, more believable. And this is why I said you have to like study light a little bit first before you try and come in and just start shading a little bit. It really helps to understand light and how it works. Because you're always thinking, except on a really small scale, is this side in light? Is this side in shadow? Is this side in light? Is this side in shadow? And that's really the balance of it. But you don't have to be 100% accurate all the time. Like you can kind of finesse your way through. And you can still create something pretty good. It's not very hard to do. The beauty is that people's minds fill in the blank when it comes to this kind of stuff. So you're coming in with the eraser sometimes to create the light part of the shadow. Let's focus a little bit more on that shirt. So in between here, so the darker you shade, the darker the crease or the wrinkle is, the deeper the wrinkle is. So when you're doing thicker materials, it's not getting very dark all the time, but in lighter materials, you can have very, very, very dark shadows because of how easy it is to just crease over itself. Once again, I come in with the eraser whenever I want to create like the light side, I want to create the highlight, I come in with the eraser to create the light. So you can really see right here how there's tension coming in from behind, because we have that wrapping. It wraps around, comes here, the breast supports it, then it causes the tension in between the two, and gravity also brings it down, the material of the shirt down from the breasts, which is what we have here. This is a great way to illustrate this. So you have that right there. And then you also have the tension from there bringing these little creases around. And since this part is in shadow, I'll just completely shade it. And just like that, you have a bit of an outfit. Another great way to express wrinkles is using the stitching on clothing. Because if I take this side stitch and I like trace a line, you see how that just comes alive and just brings the shape of all of these folds to life. And this illustrates how the bumps and creases are made. It really helps to illustrate what those creases are doing. You see that? Look at that, that's gorgeous. You could have a stripe going across the shirt. Boom, and you're just expressing what's going on with the material. You see that? So that's another tip. So this is just a beginner entry kind of level into clothing. I will get more detailed. I will teach more about constructing. I'll teach the different kinds of folds that you find, not just in clothing, but in any kind of material. And yeah, I really hope that this helped. And comment down below what you'd like to see more of. So here we have these two, and shading this one would simply be filling in some of the dark spots. Some of the spots. It's very easy. I think a lot of people overthink it. There's just this natural flow to it, and then coming in with the eraser really, really helps in just reestablishing those lighter areas. And then understanding just actually the natural way that the shadow works, it also helps to create clothes. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment, because it really helps me, and your comments will help me improve my content for you, because I'm trying to be in this community. I want to help everybody grow, and the main way to do that is to get feedback from you. I'm not a teacher for myself, I'm you guys' teacher. So if you tell me how to teach you better, that's the only way that I can improve. My channel isn't super big yet, so every little thing that you say, I'm taking note of. You don't get that opportunity with a lot of artists anymore, so I hope I can help you. Thanks for watching.